Welcome to our Open Call for Innovations Q&A webinar. We're happy to have you here. Hopefully you'll find the information that we deliver here very useful for you in your application for our Call for Innovations, our latest installment of this, which is really exciting. And I think what I'll do now is just go over the agenda of what we've got arranged for today. So what we're going to start off with is basically go over a brief overview of the hub itself and what we do and how we're set up and how we operate. And then we provide an overview of the Open Call for Innovations. We go over some frequently asked questions that we received related to this specific session. And then we give an opportunity to the people in the audience to respond to provide any specific questions that they have, and then we answer them as they come and take any live questions. And after that, we'll ask you to take a 1-minute survey that helps us improve our delivery of our Q&A webinar. So please, we'd really appreciate it if you take the time to do that very brief 1-minute survey that after this. Next slide, please. So without further ado, I'm going to give you an overview of how the hub operates and what we do and who we are. For those who are not familiar, for those that know what we do, maybe we can then double check and see where we end up. Okay. So basically, the hub receives funding from a combination of stakeholders. Next slide, please. That includes the German government, the EU, the government of Netherlands. We also receive support from NORAD, the Norwegian government through NORAD. We get support from the Swedish government through SIDA, and then the US government through USAID. Next slide. So all these partners in total have contributed a total of $65 million with a specific focus on supporting innovations that fall into 3 main categories, okay? Water, food, energy food, and water, energy food. So the hub is looking to support these innovations that operate in at least one of these areas. Okay. Next slide. So what makes our approach different from all the other traditional donor-led organizations that has got a specific strong private sector focus? So our approach centers really on working with local stakeholders to provide market-based solutions to meet development challenges at its core. And when we say innovators, we mean organizations such as those of you present in this webinar, and these organizations that provide solutions to a We4F Nexus challenge. We identify these innovators through this call for innovation similar to this one, and through these platforms we extend technical assistance to help scale and grow these specific enterprises that we identify. And then we also work to mobilize external funding for innovators and also provide financial capacity building, financial capacity development as well for both innovators, for multipliers, financing institutions, as well as stakeholders. A big part of our work focuses on advocacy for water, food, energy issues to address enabling environment constraints that the innovators or that these organizations may be facing at either at a national level, at a regional level, and in some instances at a global level. So a critical piece of the work that we do focuses on really developing end user financing solutions to make sure that these innovations that we're working to scale, to grow, remain accessible and affordable to the individuals, the end user beneficiaries at the end of the day. So next slide, please. So whereabouts do we operate? So we've got a wide mandate that covers 12 countries, as you can see it's described. I like to think of this as the SADC region, then you remove Tanzania, and then you remove Malawi. And in their place, you add the Central African Republic and Chad. So you get a nice sort of, as depicted there in the image that is before you right now. And that's the core focus. And the key thing to note from this slide is that we're operating out of Pretoria, and that's where our current base of operations is. The next slide, please. So what are we working towards as a hub? As a hub, we've committed to achieve the following goals. The first one is to identify and fund at least 30 W4F innovators across the aforementioned region, the region I stated just before. And then we worked with these innovators to support them attaining at least 1 million smallholder farmers as customers and other end users, with at least 25% of those being women. And we're also working to increase investment availability to at least to the tune of $7.5 million for all of our innovators across the board. We're also working to ensure that in all the activities that we do, we are integrating gender and environmental sustainability in all the work that we do. Also, I think the primary goal of what we're trying to do is to help farmers increase food production whilst increasing water and energy efficiencies. That's a primary focus of what we do. And then in all our efforts, we're also working to enhance the enabling environment for all the W4F innovations through, again, like I said, advocacy and capacity building activities. So I'm going to take a pause here and then hand over to my colleague, Mashiri Jarima, who's our technical assistance facilitator, who will take it through the next set of slides. Mashiri, over to you.
Thanks so much, Evans. Maybe if you could just give me a thumbs up if you can hear me clearly. Awesome. So again, my name is Mashiri Jarima. I am the Technical Assistance Facilitator for the Southern and Central Africa Regional Innovation Hub. We are based here in Pretoria in South Africa. I'm just switching my video just briefly so that at least you get to see me, and then I'll switch it off for the presentation itself. So it's really lovely to have you on the call. And in the next coming few slides, I will take you through the Open Call for Innovations process and overview itself in terms of what it entails. So what are we aiming to achieve through this Open Call for Innovations, or O-CFI, as you hear this acronym from time to time? We are aiming to collaborate with you to co-create scalable solutions that are relevant in the W4F, or water and energy for food nexus, within our Southern and Central Africa Regional Innovation region rather. And through that, we also hope to support you to provide a combination of grants, technical assistance, as well as investment facilitation. Additionally, as a hub, we also aim to help you to achieve commercial scale and attract outside investments beyond the grants that you'll be receiving from this program. And please do take note that our O-CFI awards will be ranging from $40,000 US to $200,000 US. And important to note here is the fact that it will be on a one-to-one match basis. So you will need to provide proof that you do have matching funding for this program should you be selected, and that match fund should specifically be used for the project. And also we do aim to make sure that we provide support for you so that you can reach more women at the bottom of the pyramid demographic of our end users. So how does the process itself work? So the process goes like this. First of all, you do express your interest, and I imagine you, for example, attending this webinar is one way of your showing of interest to this program. But in a more practical way, we expect you to submit a concept note, which is really a brief guide to what you're doing as an organization, and also a brief proposal to what you really would like to do with us should you be selected. And later during this this webinar, you will receive a link in the chat to the application platform, which is SurveyMonkey. Some of you already might have received the link either through our various digital platforms or through the emails that we've been sending to some of you directly. So once you submit a concept note, which is about 36 questions, most of which are pretty short answer responses. We will internally review your concept notes, and for those that will be deemed to be eligible and meeting the minimum criteria that we're looking for, we will then separately invite you to submit a full proposal. And at this stage, we expect you to provide a little bit more detail in terms of like the project or the innovation that you would like to implement with us, providing all the supporting documentation, etc. And it is at that point when you have submitted your full proposal that we will then review it again and go through a process we call co-creation with you. And the purpose of this process is really to make sure that because we already like your proposal, we're trying to make sure that we enhance it to make sure that it meets both your business objectives as well as the hub's objectives that we have set out to achieve. So we'll go through the co-creation process with you, after which we'll then make a recommendation to our donors to say this is the list of innovators that we would like to work with. The donors themselves will take time to review and make a determination, and that determination could be one of the three options, which is either they can approve you and announce you as an awardee, but they can also approve you just as a technical assistance only innovator. In other words, you may not get funding, but you can actually still get support from the hub in the form of technical assistance and investment facilitation, or they could still decline your application. So once we receive that determination from the donors, will communicate it back to you and take it to the next stage. So just a brief guide as well to what themes we are looking for in this program, the Water and Energy for Food program, and specifically this O-CFI program. So to put it in a nice summary, we're really looking for two things: water use efficiency in food production, or energy use efficiency in either food production or processing or mitigation of food waste. So if your innovation is in somehow helping smallholder farmers or end users or the base of the pyramid to achieve these impacts, then we will be very interested to review your application. I'll just quickly highlight to you what target groups or innovations or innovators we will be looking to receive applications from. First, we look forward to receiving applications from what we call legacy innovators, and these are innovators that we've already supported and worked with in our previous grant challenges. For example, the first call for innovations or the second call for innovations, or even previous challenges. We also look forward to receiving applications from either for-profit, not-for-profit, academic and research institutions, for as long as they can prove to us that they have their own budget and they're responsible for generating their own revenue. On a case-by-case basis, we might also identify other target groups that will be of interest for us to work with. And in so doing, our main objective really will be that we reach out to more women smallholder farmers, we reach out to more base of the pyramid beneficiaries who are working in all parts of the agriculture value chain. So what is it that you should be looking at for you to rather check if you're eligible or not? We do have a few eligibility criteria checks. The first of all being that you need to be a legally registered, either for profit or not for profit, academic or research institution. We really do not provide prescriptive guidance in terms of the size of the organization, but we require that you be registered in one of the 12 countries that we are working in, or at least be willing to be operating or be planning to be operating in those countries, that the 12 countries that we mentioned earlier on at the beginning of this presentation. Critically to notice there is again that our program runs on a one-to-one matching funds basis. which means should you be considered or should you be awarded a grant, at that point of award, we would need you to prove that you already have match funds that you will be using towards this program. So just bear that in mind, that you will be required at some stage, should you be awarded, that you provide evidence that you do actually have these matching funds, and the matching funds will be used specifically for the proposed program. And also, again, you notice that I will say over and again that we really would expect your innovation to impact, the base of the pyramid, to embed ESG, gender, and BOP in its structure and implementation. So for you to be considered a successful water and energy for food innovator, we expect that you will have a financially sustainable business model that fits within the water, energy, food nexus. We also expect that you clearly articulate your plans for expansion, and as well make sure that you do clearly show us how you will embed ESG, gender, and BOP components within your business model. But there are areas that we do not support. For example, if you fail to demonstrate that you've got a proven track record of sales or customers, then we will not be able to consider your application. And in this instance, we expect you to have reached at least 5,000 customers or end users or sales if your product costs less than $100, or have sold 1,000 units or have reached 1,000 customers if your product costs more than $100 or more. And again, in terms of what we will not be looking to support, we do not look to support those projects, those proposals that will have a huge infrastructure component. In other words, you're requesting for funding to carry out construction activities or huge infrastructure projects. Equally important, we do not support government entities or individuals who apply just as individuals. We rather support the registered entities. So how will your concept note and full proposal be reviewed? So your submissions will be reviewed based on three criteria. First of all, being the innovation viability. And this is really where the review team will be looking at your innovation itself and the value it creates to our end users and the base of the pyramid. And the second category is when the reviewers will be looking at the financial viability of your innovation itself. In other words, what is your financial model looking like? What are your revenue figures looking like, etc., and your expansion plans, and what that means to the revenue projections. And thirdly, we again will look at sustainability issues or ESG issues, as well as gender and BOP integration within your within the delivery of your innovation to our end users. So these are the three broad categories through which your concept note will be reviewed by the internal technical evaluation committee. And finally, again, as I said earlier on, you will get a link in the chat which will take you to a SurveyMonkey platform, which is the platform that we're using for you to submit your concept note. The link is also the one that is being shown here on this slide, but again, it will be shared in the chat for you to access it. Some of you, again, you have already received it through email or you've received it through our various platforms. So do make sure that before you leave this webinar, you have gotten yourself access to this link, because this is what you'll be using to submit your concept note. But what is really critical for you here is to say, and I'm speaking from experience, that when you do go to the platform, the SurveyMonkey platform, make sure that you answer all questions that are required, except if a question is optional. Because if you do not provide responses to all the questions, then your application will not be considered for review. And again, like I'm saying, I'm speaking from experience. I see some incomplete submissions, at the moment, we're getting back to people to say, hey, we noticed that you have submitted an application, but it's incomplete. Please do submit a complete application. But we may not be able to continue to do that. So just make sure that you do respond to all the questions. And for guidance purposes, we do have 36 questions. So until you get to question number 36, you are not yet complete with your application. So you might go until question number, I don't know, 11, 12, whatever. But until you get question number 36, that's when you know that I've now completed the survey. And of course, it sounds like a lot of questions, but like I said, most of them really are not, they don't require like elaborate responses. But of course, we'll expect that when you provide responses, they're concise and they provide enough detail for the reviewers to be able to make sense of what you are proposing, as well as to make a determination in terms of whether your proposal is fit for what we're looking for or not. Also, you will see that we have an O-CFI guidance document, which is an elaborate document that gives all the information you might want to know about this program, the expectations, the timelines, and everything in between. So please, again, when you go to the application platform, make sure that you access this document, which is available in 2 languages, English and French. So you can choose whichever language works better for you. And these are the only 2 languages for now that we are providing this document in. So do make sure that you review this document maybe before you submit your application, so that at least when you submit, you know how to respond to questions. And finally, but equally important, this program will be running will be receiving applications on a rolling basis. In other words, we do not have a deadline for submission. However, we are looking to onboard 13 innovators. So as soon as we get the 13 innovators that we're looking for, we will close the application. So in as much as there is no deadline for you to submit, I urge you to submit your concept note as soon as possible so that it gets reviewed whilst the window for applications is still open for you to submit. I will now pause here and hand over to my colleague, Mashood Mabila, who is our monitoring, evaluation, and learning specialist, who together with Evans will be taking you through some of the frequently asked questions. And please do pay attention to these. Maybe you've got a similar question like this, then you can get the responses. In the event that you do not see your question answered here, at the end of this session, we'll provide you an opportunity to ask questions through the chat box. So thank you very much for taking the time to listen to this portion of the presentation. Over to you, Mashood.
Thank you so much for the introduction, Mashiri. So I'm going to be taking you through to the questions that we have received prior to this Q&A webinar, and we thought we could bring them to this presentation so that if there's any of you who had a similar question, then you will leave this webinar with the responses that you were expecting. So the first question that we received was, if we are based outside the target country, are we eligible to apply?
And that's a question we often receive. I think the key thing to note is that you're only eligible to apply if you're operational, as in you're registered in the country, or intend to introduce your innovation in the target countries.
And I think my colleague also mentioned the issue of the concept notes, just to make sure everyone understands. Is there a deadline for submitting a concept note?
So, because this is the open call for innovations, the applications will be received and reviewed on a rolling basis. So there is no deadline, but we strongly encourage you to submit your application as soon as possible, because it's also dependent on the amount of resources that we've got. So the sooner you can apply, the better.
And can I apply as an individual?
At this stage, we're only taking applications from registered organizations that are not government entities.
Is it required that the applicant must be a proprietary owner of the innovation, or can the innovation be from another company and the applicants want to import and promote this innovation in the Southern and Central Africa region?
And this is a really important question. So there are two instances that this would work. So you can apply if you're the proprietary owner of the innovation. The other instance you can apply is that if you are in consortium with the proprietary owner of the innovation, then you should be able to apply for that.
My company is still fairly new and started operating in 2022, but I already have the required client base. Can I go ahead and apply?
Yes, you can apply. We accept applications from organizations, provided they have proven traction in the market. And in addition to that, the company must be stable, with stable functioning operations, and already has consistent sales and a client base of more than 5,000 customers.
Is it 5,000 or 1,000 customers reached in total, or for each particular innovation? Please clarify.
Yeah, so if you're a company with multiple products and you want to apply with one of them, you must demonstrate that the total number of your current client base related to that specific product that you want to apply for, and the potential to expand is at least 5,000 or 1,000, and it has potential to expand to a bigger customer base. The 5,000/1,000 means that if your product costs less than $100, you need to have at least confirmed sales of that specific product of at least 5,000. If it's more than $100, you need to have sales for at least 1,000 clients.
Are the innovations targeting biodiversity conservation eligible to apply, or must it be a production system?
So if your innovation is only targeting biodiversity conservation without a financially sustainable business model, it is not eligible to apply. All applications submitted to the O-CFI O-CFI must fulfill the eligibility requirements.
Does the impact have to be for the poor, women, and the environment, or impacting one of them is sufficient for me to put through an application for this challenge?
You will not be excluded if you cannot claim to have an impact in all the mentioned areas. However, the more cumulative impact that you can claim related to the poor, women, and the environment, the better.
So as a company, how can I deal with the environmental, social, and governance criteria for this application?
So in the application process, you should clearly demonstrate a basic understanding of what the ESG issues are, and you should showcase a strong commitment to ESG integration into your business model. We have some people who are part of our current cohort of innovators who showed a strong commitment but had not done a lot of groundwork, and we're working with them to help them achieve to meet and surpass their ESG criteria.
Are the small, medium enterprises that are fully owned by a large holding company eligible to apply for this challenge?
SMEs are encouraged to apply if they meet all the eligibility criteria and they can prove that they are financially independent with a separate governance structure from the holding company.
And then NGOs, are they eligible to apply?
Yes, so we support NGOs provided that they can prove that they are market oriented and that their innovation is scalable and has a sustainable business model, sustainable revenue model. So what we call traditional development projects that are looking for grant funding and don't have clients to purchase the innovation supported, to purchase in the innovation will not receive any support from the O-CFI. Yeah.
Are education or academic institution eligible to apply for the open call for innovation?
So yes, registered educational institutions are eligible to apply for this call as long as they have a market-proven, financially sustainable business model related to the innovation and that they want to apply. So the key is that they must be a sustainable business model that we can scale up to move forward.
So what about the government universities? Can they be a partner of the group that is going to put through the application for the open call for innovation?
It's a good question. So as we stated earlier, government entities on their own are not eligible to apply for the score. However, publicly funded universities can take part as a partner of a group or as part of a consortium, as long as that institution is not the lead in the application, the lead organization.
What is the acceptable range for matching funds?
So particularly for this O-CFI application process, we require a match funding of at least 1-to-1, and the range will starts from about $40,000 to about $200,000. The match must, for our instances, the match must already be secured and must be ready to be used for O-CFI activity.
And the financial statement that are going to be supporting the application, can they be provided in English, or you can also accept any other language?
So for this O-CFI process, we are accepting applications in both English and French. So you can submit in those specific instances, in English or in French. Yeah.
Can a joint venture of two companies or small, medium enterprises apply together to meet the application criteria?
Absolutely. So as long as the joint venture is led by one lead applicant, and in that you can demonstrate a true partnership with clear definition of roles, as well as highlighting the complementarity of the partnership towards the specific product or innovation that we are providing as part of the application.
Thank you so much, Evans, for those responses. And to our guest on the webinars, if you still feel over and above the questions and responses that we provided, you still have more questions, feel free to post them on the chat, and then we'll be happy to respond to them to your satisfaction. Thank you so much. Over to you, Lulu. Do you have any more questions on the chat that we need to address?
Yes, thank you, Mashudu. We still have some questions from the audience. I see that some of them have been answered, but for the sake of everyone having to hear what they're about, I'm just going to read them out. We have two questions from Caesar Trust. The first one says, can only those that were previously supported by the grant challenges apply?
So anyone, everyone within innovation can apply. The only premise is that if that innovation was supported, you can't apply with the same innovation. So any individual can apply, but they must make sure that it's a different innovation to the one that has received support from these previous grant challenges. Yeah.
He or she is also asking, isn't the size of the client base highly dependent on the type of business or products? Setting a 5,000 client base will eliminate many organizations.
And this is a very valid point. So in light of this realization, we've created two categories, which I sort of touched on a little bit earlier on, is that we've got one where if you have 1,000 customers, so if your product costs more than $100 per unit, your product/service costs more than $100,000, most $100 per unit, we accept 1,000 customers. That's what you need to meet the minimum eligibility criteria. And then if it costs less than $100, we expect you to have at least 5,000 customers. So that's how we package it. That's how we cater for the difference in the categories, and hopefully that should be sufficient.
Jaws Wesman wants to know, if you don't really produce a product, but rather a service like introducing a new farming method, is this applicable for this grant?
And I think this is, we have some instances in our current cohort of innovators where people are introducing a different way of crop husbandry, as it were. And I would like to encourage you to apply, because this is a case-by-case basis, and we understand, as we understand your innovation, and as you pitch it to us in a way that makes sense to us and resonates with us, we'll be able to make a determination based on that. Based on a question on that, I won't be able to say yay or nay, but I would strongly encourage you to apply so that we can look at it in depth and provide a review later on.
Dr. Namube is asking, I work in a university training college run by the government. Can I apply?
Yeah, so we would accept your application, provided you meet the criteria stated a little bit earlier on. Maybe you may have missed. The first one is that you have to apply as part of a consortium, and the university organization cannot be the lead organization. That's the first point. And secondly, the product or the innovation that you are discussing or using as part of the application must have proven traction in the market. So it goes back to the minimum criteria of either it being 1,000 or 5,000 sales that are confirmed that we can readily scale to move forward. Yeah.
Can a cooperative society apply for funding for an innovation or training such as in food security?
So remember what we said. So what we're doing as a program is that we're providing support to help businesses, enterprises, organizations that have NGOs, academic institutions that have some product or innovation or service that they want to scale. So if you can clearly demonstrate in your application that there's this specific product that has proven traction in the market that we want to scale and sell to more individuals, and this product or service operates in the nexus and helps farmers produce more food with using less energy or water, then we'll really look at that and review it in the application. My recommendation to you is that you make your application and make a case in the context that I've just provided, and we will review it on a case-by-case basis.
Can I match the grant with goods or services in kind?
Mashiri, would you like to take this one?
Yes, sure. And I see it's a question that has been submitted by both Isaiah as well as Norman. So it seems like it's a popular question. So yes, our match funds can be in cash or cash equivalent, which is like in kind. So again, that will be on a case-by-case basis. When you do provide your proposed budget, we will see like what kind of a cash equivalent you are proposing to be your match fund. So the answer to that is yes, but it will be considered on a case-to-case basis in terms of what will be the allowable in kind or cash equivalent kind of contribution.
Okay, we have another one. It's a bit lengthy. It says, I'm from Botswana. I work with smallholder farmers forming cooperatives. We are yet to register cooperatives. We are women smallholder farmers, 68 and more coming. We want to produce sugar beets for government schools feeding program. We recently registered foods from farms. We are a startup. We can get matching funds if there is concrete evidence that we will be funded. What should we do?
That's a very interesting proposition that you've got, that you've presented here. I think the key thing here is to note this. what this program, what the We4F program does is that we support organizations, institutions that have a product or a service that they are providing to the benefit of smallholder farmers, and that product or service is operating in the We4F nexus. So if in your application you can clearly demonstrate a clear link to the We4F nexus, firstly, that you have a true innovation that has traction in the market, that you have sold it to someone and someone has bought it to the tune of it achieving the minimum sales targets that we've discussed earlier, and then you meet all the eligibility criteria, then we'll be then in a position to then make a determination whether we should provide funding or support towards that. So the key thing to note is that you must have a product or a service that we can help you scale, to help you grow that product or service business to scale beyond what it currently is. So as you are, proposing or thinking about making an application, keep those things in mind so that we can help you see if we can make a determination in light of those criteria that we provided.
Nondumiso also wants to know which documents can she produce as evidence that their financial model is sustainable, as well as that they have a client base.
There's a range of documents you can provide to prove a financial sustainable model. So we're fortunate enough that we have a brokering unit team that specializes in this kind of thing. So we would need to provide audited financial statements that you can share with us, that we can then sort of review as part of the application process. And as we review it, we can then see from what the trends have been, whether you have a financial sustainable business from what the results have been so far. So that's the one way we could do. In addition to that, I mean, although we can also ask for details around the number of sales that you've committed in terms of receipts and completed, not receipts, sorry, completed orders, sales, and that sort of thing. Mashiri, is there anything else that you feel that we could use in this specific instance, or anyone else on the team?
Well, I think you pretty much covered it, except to say that the starting point before we even get to the financial statements is that in the full application itself, there are questions that are specifically targeted at that. So we will review like your responses to those questions, and we can we can get an understanding of how many sales you've made, what revenue generated, and then that can be then corroborated by the supporting documentation, which is the financial statement. So nothing much to add other than that. Thanks.
We have another one from Leslie Halliwell. Does the fund support institutional overheads and support services costs? And if yes, is there a limit to the amount?
That's an interesting question. So I don't see, in my understanding, I don't think there's any issue with us supporting institutional overhead, provided you can prove that there's match funding. That's the first thing. And secondly, you must have the innovation in the operating in the nexus. With the way you phrased your question, I don't see a specific issue there, but I'll still encourage you to make the application. When you do make an application, then we'll review it within the context and the details. Remember, always the devil's in the details. Fundamentally, I don't see, provided there's a clear match and then there's a strong business case for the program, if it gets the support that it can scale beyond what it currently is, there shouldn't be an issue in us supporting that.
Can I resubmit the application to make a few corrections?
Mashiri, can you take that one?
Yes. So if you feel like you need to make corrections, please resubmit. But then I think once you have resubmitted, you'd have to send us an email at We4F Africa. What's the email address rather shown on the screen? We4F Africa @tetratic.com, just to notify us that I've submitted a corrected version of the application, so that we get to delete the other one. Otherwise, if you just submit and we you don't notify us, we'll just consider that as a double submission and we'll go with the first submission.
We have another one from Joss Westman. My company is based in the Netherlands, but we deliver our services in Zambia. Can I apply for this grant from my Dutch company, or should I work through our Zambian partner?
The presence in the organization, right? So, sorry, not in the organization, in the country, right? In one of the 12 countries that we operate in. So if you'd have either through your partner that is registered in Zambia, that is operating in Zambia, it will be best if you make the application through that partner and then that organization be the lead applicant in that application. So that way it becomes an easier, clear link between what the work is doing and then the service that's being provided. So I would strongly advise that you apply through your Zambian partner and make them the lead organization in the application.
I see a hand from Conrad Bialwa. Can you please refer to your question into the chat? Thank you. We have another question. It says, will you share the presentation in FAQ?
So what we will do is that we will take all these questions that we've presented in the FAQ, in addition to the ones that are in the chat now, and then we would upload them as on the We4F SCA website, and that's how we will move it forward. So we will make it available in the coming week or so.
Rose Kennedy is asking, will the opportunity still be there next year, as now we have to get our documents right and also see if we can comply with other requirements?
So like we said, it's an open call for innovations. There's no deadline date per se, but then the only caution I would add to that is that we have a limited pool of funds and a limited number of innovators we can onboard. So the sooner you can make an application, and if your application is solid, we can then consider it and provide support to it. So it's mostly the one. So if you apply next year, but then all the 13 slots or 15 slots have been taken, it may be a great application, but then there will be just no resources to support you. So my recommendation is do it as soon as you possibly can. Get on there, start applying. Then we'll review them as on an ongoing basis.
Yes, and maybe if I just might add as well to that, Evans, that for you to keep updated on what opportunities are happening within the hub, we encourage you as well to go to we4f.org and sign up to our newsletter so that you can receive any opportunities that may be coming in between.
Are there similar grants available in East Africa? For example, Kenya, Ethiopia?
Yes, so we have our sister hub, that is the East Africa hub, that is based out of Kenya, Nairobi. They have a similar program to what we have, and you will be able to access these resources through them. My recommendation is to go to the We4F global website and then or type in We4F East Africa. It should come up, and then you should be able to see there's an info page. You can ask, you can write an email directly to the people who are working on that school. Alternatively, you can put your name in this chat, then your email address in the chat, then we can try and see if we can link you up with our colleagues from East Africa.
Innocent is asking that we be specific. Are you going to share the presentation with the participants?
Thanks, Innocent. Oh, go ahead, Mashi.
Yeah, sure. I just wanted to say, so after the webinar, we'll upload all the webinar material on our YouTube channel. So I think you should be able to access it from there. But should you have any challenges accessing it from there after the webinar, obviously not immediately after the webinar, then maybe you can reach out and we can see how we can help you.
Yeah, I think that's the last of the questions.
I see that there was one as well from Isaiah. So he's asking like, can I start my application and then come back later? So what the platform we're using does is that you would need to submit this in one sitting, and this is why we've made it like really brief. You shouldn't take long to complete it because like I said, most of the questions are really like a few sentences. So you should be able to submit that in one sitting. And why we do that as well is that we also trying to avoid the challenge we're seeing of maybe someone submitting an incomplete application and then they come back and try to complete a new one. So it kind of like creates a little bit of confusion in that. So we encourage you just to make sure that you take it in one sitting. It shouldn't take time because it's like really, really brief.
Okay, I think all the questions have been addressed, the ones from the chat. So over to you, Evans.
Great. So I want to encourage you to take this 1-minute survey, provide us feedback by scanning the QR code, but more importantly, those that have seen that this presentation has resonated with and they see an opportunity here, please go ahead and just go to our website, go and check out the application and start the process as soon as possible so that we can learn about your innovation, and we look forward to supporting you. So if there are no further questions, I'd like to just thank you for taking the time to join us. If you have any follow-up further questions that you might have, please feel free to write to us at We4F. If you could just go back up so I can just say just 2 slides up, Deborah, with the We4F address. I think someone from our team will put the We4F Africa rh@titotech.com address, and then we'll see how best we can respond to those specific questions that you might have. I'll encourage you to try and do this as soon as possible so we can incorporate it in the FAQs that we post up a little bit later on. So again, thank you again for joining the call. I hope you can do the 1-minute survey, and we look forward to reading about your innovations and working with you in the future. Thank you very much.